Hi, I'm Mark from jazzguitarlessons.net and welcome to another episode of Album Deep Dives. Today I'll shine the spotlight on the incredible album Boss Guitar, an amazing organ trio work by Wes Montgomery on guitar, of course, Melvin Ryan on Hammond B3 organ, and Jimmy Cobb on drums. Welcome to Jazz Guitar Lessons, where we help guitarists learn jazz faster, express themselves more fluently, and have fun along the way. My name is Mark, and if you're looking to learn jazz, form better practice habits, and especially if you enjoy a French accent, make sure to subscribe. Boss Guitar was recorded on April 22, 1963, and released under the Riverside record label. This is Wes's 9th studio album. In a previous episode, we focused on the famous album Smoking at a Half Note with the Wynton Kelly Trio, supporting the brilliance of the magnificent Wes Montgomery. There's a marked difference between Smoking at a Half Note and Boss Guitar that's important to point out. They represent very different experiences, as the former was recorded live and Boss Guitar is a studio album. Apart from this, the organ trio format has a special place in the repertoire of jazz guitarists. As a side note for those who are new to the organ trio format, notably, there's no bass. The organist fulfills this role as well as being the main comping instrument in the group, so the guitar is free to take a lead melodic role. Montgomery recorded this album when he was 38 years old, in the prime of his career, and only 5 years before his untimely death. Although the records that followed did provide hits for Wes, this 1963 session was at a time when he really could make the bold claim that the album suggests, right? It's Boss. So the previous year, Montgomery had placed 4th in the influential Playboy Jazz Poll. We don't hear from this one anymore, right? And had been named the All-Stars All-Star Guitar by voting musicians, which is an electorate that included Cannonball Adderley, Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Paul Desmond, Duke Ellington, Stan Getz, Dizzy Gillespie, Oscar Peterson, and Frank Sinatra, amongst others. Wes had worked extensively with both Melvin Ryan and Jimmy Cobb prior to this record, the Boss Guitar, whose voices permeated the tracks with a very confident and organic sound. Even though Ryan and Cobb were incredible and respected musicians, having worked with Miles Davis, Cannonball, Duke, etc., throughout the 8 tracks of Boss Guitar, both Ryan and Cobb scarcely solo and work primarily as backing musicians. The Boss Guitar of Wes Montgomery is front and center, and he demonstrates amazing lyrical dexterity. The trio plays mainly jazz standards in this record. However, 2 Montgomery compositions are featured on this album, which are The Trick Bag and Fried Pies. And this demonstrates the brilliance of Wes Montgomery's compositional ability, with a simmering workout and a strong interplay between the organs and drums. In this deep dive episode, we're going to thoroughly explore just 2 of the standout tunes on this album, namely Besame Mucho and Fried Pies. Amidst the 8 sparkling and diverse tunes is the old Latin standard Besame Mucho. Interestingly, it received an uncommon treatment as a spirited jazz waltz in B-flat minor, with some funk overtones on this album. Throughout Besame Mucho, which was originally a cute time Latin waltz composed by Consuelo Velasquez and Sonny Schuyler, Wes Montgomery displays an amazing command over the melody. He does not play it in a conventional manner, for sure. He takes twists and turns in the melodic phrasing, playing bluesy and bebop licks here and there, and he trills and displaces notes so that the melody feels as though it is rolling through a hillside. In this way, even before the solo, Montgomery displays the virtuosity of his single note styling and phrasing. Born on March 6, 1923, John Leslie Wes Montgomery grew up listening to big band jazz. When we examine Montgomery's solo technique, we find that he operates like a big band unto himself. He usually begins a solo with single note, horn-like phrases and motifs. Wes then moves to use of the octaves as a horn sections and a big band might articulate. And finally, he moves on the the improvisation using chord shapes. So his use of block chords, especially drop two voicings, resembles very much what the saxophone's sections will play during the soli in a big band chart. During Besame Mucho, he develops his blowing in just this way, exactly the same formula. He starts a solo with fluid single note melodies, and then adding the mix of blues and bebop licks with great use of space and phenomenal phrasing. As the formula dictates, in the next section of the solo, Montgomery's uses of octaves is a real masterclass in call and response. The blues-oriented sound cultivated in the first chorus is still dominant, particularly at important cadences in the progression. His playing is full of strong melodic riffs. Well into the octave solo, we can appreciate a classic slurred octave articulation. This particular portion of his blowing introduces such an ear-catching rhythmic motif that develops as the octave solo moves into the bridge of the tune, the B section. Let's listen. As Wes enters the bridge during his improvisation, he uncovers some amazing rhythmic devices. So the rhythmic motif that I would like to point out here is conformed of 2 8 notes and an 8-note rest. This is very characteristic of Montgomery's playing overall. Applying this kind of rhythmic motif to simple arpeggios, and with the aid of rests and metric displacement, he's really creating syncopation by accenting certain beats. Let's listen. Right after that rhythmic motif that we just pointed out, Montgomery produces a compelling rhythmic episode using different rhythmic motifs consisting of an 8-note triplet and a quarter note. So note here we have an Emiola effect created by the rhythmic displacement of this motif against a song that's in 3/4. Remember, it's a waltz. So also, it's very interesting to point out how Montgomery is grouping his melodies during the section of the 2-bar phrases. This motivic development occurring on 2 distinct levels simultaneously is an indicator of Montgomery's natural improvising genius. Now let's explore the other track from Bass Guitar that is another Wes composition. Well, I shouldn't say another, it's the Wes composition that we're featuring in this deep dive. It's called Fried Pies. Downbeat's review of the album regarded Fried Pies as a cooking, horizontally stretched blues. And we're mentioning this is Downbeat magazine, by the way. And so this tune is really an uncommon 12-bar blues in F, featuring a clever arrangement with a very tricky ensemble line in the melody. It's a 2-section structure for improvisation with an interesting harmonic drone and an exemplary guitar solo. Montgomery's creation features a brisk single-note bluesy melody supported by extended offbeat chord punches. These phrases are played in lockstep by the guitar and organ. So the 12-bar blues format and its customary progression are more implied than overtly stated in the head. Note the unusual placement of the 1 and the 4 chords, which would be, in this case, it's F7, B flat 7. Also, this tune exemplifies a characteristic tritone substitution mutation to the blues that Montgomery uses superbly. He substitutes D7 for A flat 13, G minor 7 for D flat 9, and F7 for B13. It's actually similar to the Ladybird turnaround, the Tad Dameron, but without the major 7 chords voicings, if you will. He then repeats the pattern smoothly, revealing Mel Rines' solo on the organ. Let's listen. Montgomery builds a solo that not only effortlessly demonstrates his jazz blues credentials, but also alludes to a more modal vocabulary, which would be a major aspect of jazz throughout the 60s. The first sections of his solo happens over an F5 drone, so like a power chord, and interlude in halftime where Montgomery plays very modally. He mixes minor and dominant 7 melodies in a brilliant way. He opens with a minor mode line that emphasizes through repetition on the C flat note, which is the flatted fifth, of course, or the blue note in F. He then switches tonalities to the major dominant side, using an F major pentatonic scale in a descending triplet lick. Let's listen. The opening 6-bar phrase of this blues form solo lends a bebop air to this improvisation. The very top of the solo begins with a dramatic C7 flat 13 sharp 9 chord into an F13 chord. Here the band sets up the swing feel as Montgomery moves through the first chorus. Wes uses chromaticism and interval jumps mixed with arpeggios and scalar melodies to create tension and resolution in his lines. As he moves to the end of the chorus, Montgomery starts playing slightly behind the beat to create a more pronounced swing feel, if you will. Now, we know Wes Montgomery shaped the way in which the world viewed jazz guitar and helped secure a more dominant role in jazz combos for that instrument. Jazz guitarist Bobby Broom said that Wes Montgomery, quote, introduced a brand new approach to playing the guitar. His octave techniques and his chord melody and chord soloing playing still is today unmatched, end quote. Thank you for listening to this episode of Album Deep Dives. We could all learn an entire course worth of jazz guitar soloing and comping techniques by listening to and analyzing Wes Montgomery's work on this record, right? His use of single note lines, octaves, and chord melody throughout the solos, as well as his magnificent comping work behind the organ that displays an array of important lessons here, and I hope that you take away some useful and inspiring tips with this episode.